Right, so what better way to celebrate the first Halloween of Intermission Kills than to actually discuss John Carpenter's original Halloween? He didn't do any more. He only did the first.
Yeah,
Halloween.
he only directed the first one, and then
people are mistaken thinking that he did the second one. I think he only had a producer hand in it.
You can't pin that failure on John Carpenter.
Second Halloween?
I can't stand by it.
Let's not.
We'll get into this later on.
So, Kurs, what is your general opinions or thoughts or history, relationship, as one might say, with Halloween? The film, not the holiday.
Oh, okay. Absolutely adore the first one. I've got my boy Mickey. I don't think the camera can see it. I've got my boy Mickey Myers tattooed on my arm there. Arguably one of the best slashers out there. I would go as far to say that.
Okay.
Don't think they needed any more. I think they could have made the first one, and it's the same opinion I've got with Scream. They could have made the first one, ended it at that, and it would have been fantastic.
When's the first time you watched this one? I think you were telling me you were too young.
Too young. It came out in what, 1978?
78.
I was born in 02.
Safe to say you didn't see it when it came out.
Yeah, I weren't at the original lineup of it. I wasn't the one watching it. I think my mum or someone had it playing, and I was kind of just awkwardly stood at the door frame, taking it in from a distance. And I think I loved it from the start, but I didn't really know the full ins and outs of it. I didn't understand it. I was too young. And then got a bit older, watched it again, and I was hooked.
I remember watching Halloween for the first time and just thinking to myself, I love this so much. Yeah. I want to watch the rest, even though they might not be as good. And I don't think any of them are as good. But I think it was one of those things where I just remember watching this film for the first time and being like, oh, there's something cool about this. Again, it's independent 70s.
Yeah.
As two people who have made independent films on a certain level.
Yeah.
I think it's just really cool to watch a film that's clearly low budget, but still looks really good. You could look at the tracking shots, where there's so many of them, where you could look at it and go was that budgetary reason just because we need to quickly get a shot in quick? And but then at the same time, it's the tracking shots are cool.
No, I think it's one of my favorite parts.
Where it's just two people talking.
Yeah.
And you got someone clearly just with on a shoulder rig, and then someone's just clearly holding the camera up, and making sure they're not falling over. But again, it looked like Loomis and the grave site worker. It's there's nothing extraordinary about that shot.
Yeah.
There's just something cool about just walking with the characters in a location.
There's a lot of reasons of why they could have done it. To me, I think it was giving that naturalistic feel, and you want to feel like you're there with the characters living what they're living. And I think it makes it scarier in a way. Because you're oh, if I was walking here and then this giant 12-foot beast of a man jumped out from behind the bush.
Again, the simpler making of the film in the way of we're just holding the camera on characters walking and talking. But then we talk about some of the more genuinely iconic moments of this film, where it's the film opens with a POV shot, and it's just that is a great shot, whether it's cheaply made or not cheaply made. You look at the other shots where it's it's just Michael in the background.
Yeah.
And it's that's just effective,
such a subtle thing, but it adds so much to a scene.
Or there's that one shot, again, people might not know about or talk about it, but it's the one of the store's being broken into, Laurie and Annie drive off, policeman still in frame, Loomis parks up, walks up, talks, Michael drives by, all in one shot. We had 3 different points. There's nothing actually that complicated filmmaking wise in this film.
It's all achievable, but the way they do it is so impactful.
But everything looks great, and it's just if you just simply frame a shot nicely,
if you use lights and focus the camera,
if you use lights and composition, you can actually make a really great film.
There's no unnecessary B-roll. You watch films now and it's here's a 15-minute shot of a drone shot over a city, or here's an alarm clock in the corner. There's no unnecessary shots in Halloween. It keeps the story moving. It's it's hour and a half runtime?
Yeah.
Around that. It feels like a 20-minute watch.
Oh, I love it.
It flies by, but it's such an easy watch.
Why this film looks as good as it does, I don't think was intentional. I think they were just we need to make
running low on budget, running out of time.
I think that's what it is, but I feel almost that in hindsight and retrospective, the film is it's a bit over 45 years old now.
Yeah.
And I think because of time and just the fact that I don't know, there's not many other films like Halloween. And we'll get to it. It's a film that's definitely had an influence on many
100%.
films, but I don't think any films I've taken influence from Halloween ever feel like Halloween. Even like even every other film in the franchise, there's no other film that feels like this.
A lot of films have clearly drew inspiration from it. And I think you can tell even watching Halloween, it's took inspiration from other films like prior to it.
Yeah.
But it does it in a way that makes it so unique and it separates itself from like every other horror film that's been made.
For another film to ever feel like Halloween, it would have had to have been made in the 70s.
Yeah.
It would have had to have been about this silent killer. It would have had to have been this, but it would have had to just be Halloween. As daft as it sounds,
It has to be.
It would have had to be that. Like that film in particular. I love digital. I think digital is very effective, and I think especially for filmmaking, digital is very important because without digital filmmaking, I don't think I would ever have made a film. If I'm being,
it's very expensive.
I don't think we would have had a chance of making films if it wasn't for digital cinematography. There's nothing quite like the film though that is used here. Because again, because I think about this, I'm thinking about like the way the shots are composed. I'm thinking about the camera movement. I'm like, if this was shot like on a 5D, it would look naff.
Yeah.
Weirdly enough, I actually think it would look cheap in the wrong way.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Because digital has too much of a cleanness to it. Whereas that's why for digital cinematography people use filters to give a bit more of a diffusion or a bit more of like something. Whereas like they weren't doing any of that for this. So they just had the camera and they had the lenses that they had. They had the film stock that they got hold of and they were like, just do it. Just shoot it. But it works for the visual.
It makes you appreciate it a bit more as well. Like what you were saying there about there's so many like long tracking shots, especially when they're going down like cases of stairs. If we were doing that with like a Blackmagic cinema camera, it's more achievable. Whack it on a shoulder mount, you're stepping back, you've got someone spotting you, you're fine. You look at film cameras, they're massive.
Yeah, chunky
they're massive,
things, man.
and they're heavy.
This was also before the Steadicam was made as well.
Some poor bloke's got hold of a massive film camera, running down a flight of stairs with like however many runners behind him spotting him.
A big percentage of what makes this film brilliant is the presentation of Michael Myers.
You gotta love him.
But then sometimes you watch like a Friday the 13th, or even if we want to go even lower budget, you watch, or like lower scale, shall I say, you watch some like a Slumber Party Massacre, which I like both of those things. But they are just like, they're more fun in the sense like the killer's out and he's just running and he's gonna kill you. Whereas like Michael is just very much so, he's like kind of just this looming presence for.
He's got no rush.
We don't get a big reveal on him for a good chunk of the film.
Well, I had no memory of actually seeing his face until like one of the later films, but obviously you reminded me, and then I was a bit shocked actually because he did not look how I thought he was gonna look.
First time we see him with the mask it's when she looks out the window and he's kind of just stood by the car that he stole and he's just like looking at her. Us knowing Michael Myers now, we're like, well, he's a man with, we know the mask, we know the look. But imagine like watching this for the first time and you don't know what this is about. The way he's shot, he's in the distance and you're like, is that a face? It's uncanny almost. It is like a thing where it's like, you don't know if it's a mask or if it's just a dead face, really. It is scary, I think. And he's gone.
Dead behind the eyes, yeah.
The reason why this film in particular is still heralded as like, well, that's a class. That's a really good film.
It still holds up.
It's because of like the way that it is because of Michael Myers as a character. It's like he is just this looming fucking presence. He is actually intimidating.
Yeah.
You see him again, one of my all-time favorite shots. You see him walk like when Laurie is ran out the house and she's banging on Tommy's door.
Scream.
And you just see him in the distance walking. It's just, do I mean to say why that looks good?
Yeah, well,
it is just perfect.
You look at things like Scream and like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, even like Nightmare on Elm Street, I think does it, where they're actually sprinting after people.
Yeah, and
he doesn't do that.
No, Leatherface is scary. I will say that, they're different types of scary.
Yeah,
I think they're two very different. Fear is a spectrum.
Yeah,
I don't think one thing is scary. And I think what Michael really does, it is just this unexplainable fear, where like you see enough. You just see a big man in a mask that is just featureless.
Yeah. I think that's what makes him scary, though, is the fact that behind the mask, you don't know what he's thinking. He has, and his eyes don't show emotion. He's got this cold stare.
Like the mask he's wearing is a face.
Yeah.
You can see a human face.
Yeah, the little pout that he has on it.
But it's not, but it doesn't move, obviously, because it's just, but it's just, that's what I mean. So it does give that, it is the uncanny.
Yeah.
It's like, there's
the uncanny valley, yeah.
It's in the familiarity of reality, but it's also not quite like it is not a man. Is he the best horror antagonist?
I would go as far to say yes. I think Ghostface has got the humor behind him and the fact that he kind of toys with his victims like through the phone. And
but then that becomes which Ghostface do you want to talk about?
That is true, yeah. Billy and Stu are the only ones who matter. No offense to the rest of them.
But they are the best one.
I think, yeah, again, like you look at like Freddy Krueger. I think the only person
he's a bit of a laugh, isn't he, Freddy?
Yeah, like even on the dream sequences, he's got like the big long arms and he's running at them, giggling away.
Yeah.
But I think the only one that I think is close to like the way Michael Myers presents himself is Jason Voorhees. But again, I'm not a big fan.
But he's a bit of a. He gets knocked over a lot.
Yeah,
man.
I'm not a fan of Jason Voorhees.
Even if we take other horror villains out of it, again, because I do like Jigsaw a lot.
Oh, so yeah.
But if we talk slasher villains, I think Michael Myers might be the only one that I'm actually like frightened of. Like, I don't think I have a good chance against any slashers. I'm not saying I can take any of them on.
Freddy Krueger running.
I might be able to boot Chucky away though. I might be able to do that.
Yeah, I don't get the fear of Chucky. He's a tiny doll.
I don't think in any other Halloween film either Michael Myers has ever been this this
he's
impactful.
Ominous. Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I don't know what they did. They didn't even necessarily do anything too... Do you know what it is? I do think it is the fact of, like, well, you can't do it, like, once you do it after the first film, you can't make him this impactful anymore because it is the build-up.
Yeah.
It's that slow build... Like, there isn't a kill count to the third act. It is just this looming presence of, like, he's driving... And you can't quite see him because of like the window, the car, like the windscreen. He's stood in the distance. His head's getting cut off by the frame. There's just a lot of like, and Loomis going like he's evil and all this like shit of like you're just getting this built up like vision in your head of what this man can do, and you've seen enough. You're seeing enough of him to where you know who he is and what he looks like, but you're not seeing too much of him to where you're like, what the fuck can he do? And then it gets to the point where he's murdering in the shadows. Again, another great advantage of it being in film and being like independently done. It's like the shadow work is gorgeous. Again, was it intentional, or did they not have the budget for many lights? Who knows?
That is the discussion.
But I think that is also another thing with horror where it's like it's one of the few genres that a lesser budget can actually help the atmosphere.
It was $300K the budget, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
More expensive, Terrifier 2, what we discovered. Yeah. So keep that in mind.
It's not, they don't overcomplicate it, which I love. I hate it when you watch a horror film, so many like, boom, pow.
It starts off really well, and then by like the third act, they have to like throw in so many plot
They just lose the ending,
like,
yeah.
Whoa. Again, this is I think a perfect slasher conclusion in the sense of like, he's still kept intimidating.
Yeah.
We've had a satisfying body count. It hasn't been egregious as well. Yeah. It's just been like,
well, they leave it on a cliffhanger.
3
as
people-ish. Well. He gets knocked down 3 different times, and then he gets shot out the window, and then he's gone.
Coat hanger in the eye.
Coat hanger in the eye. But again, I didn't need any more.
Yeah.
The storyline just kind of like...
It ends nicely. Yeah. When I was a kid, I hated the fact that there was a cliffhanger.
Oh, really?
Like, I remember like watching it like properly when I actually paid attention to it, and he disappears, and I'm like, oh no, like
tune in for 2.
Yeah, no, I think even my childhood brain was like, oh, the sellouts that just want to make a second film. Whereas now I think I appreciate how they did it, because I think as the story moves on with the other films,
I even think if you just look at it though as an isolated film, like imagine like we didn't get any more.
Yeah,
this was
that'd work.
I think it still works. Yeah, it does. I think it can still work in the sense like, oh, he's out there. That's all you need. It's like, they didn't. There was no defeated of the evil. It's just like they got him for now, and then that's it.
Yeah, and that's why I don't think there should have been more.
Even watching it this time around, there's so much that they take from other things, and there's like, right, that was clearly from that. That was clearly from that. That was clearly from that. And there's some films, both student and professional films, that just take from 1 or 2 things, and then they just do that. But then all I'm thinking of is watching them like, you've just done a shitter version of that.
Yeah.
Like, you haven't done you haven't brought anything of yourself to it. Whereas I think if you take one thing from that, one thing from that, one thing from that, one thing from that, if you take many different things, I think it can activate the little part in your brain and be like, oh, I like that because it reminds.
It's the nostalgia thing again.
But it's also not. But for example, there's like the shot of like where Tommy looks out of the window and he sees Michael stood by like the house. And I remember watching it. That's kind of identical to like when Norman Bates stood by the house. There's that one shot, but then the whole film isn't.
It's not a Psycho.
It's not a
spin-off,
Psycho ripoff. They just got
yeah.
that one thing, and it's like, okay, that's cool.
It takes inspiration, but it makes it its own. And
The
I think
opening,
that's what's so good about
the
it.
opening POV,
Yeah.
Black Christmas. But even before Black Christmas, Pete and Tom in 1960 did it.
I haven't seen that.
It's good.
But I've seen it in a lot of films where
It's
they've
good.
done that point of view shot.
Matt Gillespie in his book wrote basically being like, John Carpenter didn't reinvent the wheel or make anything else. He just simply took from the best. And
Yeah.
I
agree.
He borrowed from the best is what was said. He didn't take. Like the basic plot of Black Christmas is in this.
there
The
is.
basic plot of that. Several scares from The Innocents. I haven't seen The Innocents.
I actually haven't
so
seen
I
The
need to see
Innocents
it.
either, yeah.
A theme tune that recalled The Exorcist. The Exorcist
I
is good.
disagree with that. We'll get to that.
And character names that even nod to Alfred Hitchcock. Loomis.
Yeah.
Even cast Janet Leigh's daughter, so there's
Yeah.
things like that. To quote Matt Gillespie in the book, horror films have been around since the beginning of cinema, and each one leads to another, so they continue to morph and change depending on society. Carpenter told the BBC, none of this is new, there are just new ways of telling stories. Which I think is kind of like the best way to look at Halloween in particular, where I don't think anything Halloween has done, like, I don't think anything that Halloween did was new.
No.
It's nothing unique that I haven't seen before, but I think just Halloween just did it really cool. Like it
It's just sick, honestly.
again, the way it was shot, the way it was presented, the themes,
Yeah.
the score is just
What you were saying there about The Exorcist and the score for...
like the theme tune.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
I think John Carpenter, my love, right? I think he has to direct and compose. I think a composer has
He co-wrote as well.
Did he co-write as well?
Yeah,
Oh, well.
yeah, so.
an otter. With composing, you can use music to aid a storyline or aid a scene. With directing, you have a vision for a scene. So I think by him doing both, he knew exactly what he wanted.
Yeah,
And I think
yeah.
by him already having he already knew where he wanted the film to go with the vision. By adding the music to it, I think the music enhances it so much.
There's that sequence of when Laurie is walking to Annie's house.
Yeah, on the night.
And
yeah.
all it is it's two tracking shots. There's one in front of Laurie, and then the reverse of from the front door
Yeah.
to the just facing it. And imagine if that was silent.
Yeah, I was gonna say no music. It'd be
It's
boring.
like fucking speed up.
Yeah,
but I
yeah,
feel
yeah.
like that shot's important to extend the tension.
I think the
Like, oh,
music
shit.
adds to the.
But
tension.
then we got a cool bit of like
Yeah.
music to go with it, so it adds to it. Again, I don't think without the music, I don't think the film would be as effective.
It adds to the memorability of it. Like you think Jaws, you think of the
Yeah.
Same with like Star Wars, Harry Potter. So many films have done it, and I think he's got like a legacy score with the film. And I think not only is Halloween just a fantastic film on its own, by bringing in that like it's a classic tune, everybody knows it, even if you aren't a fan of the Halloween films.
In order to build an atmosphere and actually a tension, yes, the cinematography is important. Yes, presenting this horror villain is important. But what are we hearing?
Yeah,
And again, yes,
it's important sound.
Again, we're hearing like the leaves or whatnot, and we're even hearing like Michael Myers
The big Darth Vader breathing.
like that. But then we do get like the score. Again, we get like the really like intense like do do do.
Yeah.
But then there's moments where it's just do do
Yeah,
do.
or even just a sting, like the bit where what's her boyfriend's name?
Bob.
Yeah, like you think he's gonna come through one door, then she turns around. Next thing you know, a hand flies out and takes him into the wall.
Best kill of the film.
It is the best kill of the film. And then to add to my love of my boy Mickey Myers over here, he was downstairs putting a ghost sheet over his head, and he even put the little glasses on his face. Like I know he's scary, and I know we're meant to not root for the bad guy, but the idea of this giant like killer just downstairs, he's got like a little pin in his mouth, sewing a little ghost sheet to wear, poking the holes for the eyes.
Yeah.
It's adorable.
That's what makes this film nicely rewatchable as well.
There's
fun
it's an
to
easy
it.
watch. Yeah,
There's fun to again, as I said, there is. I do think there is something actually quite scary and intense
it
about
makes you jump 100%.
But then there are moments where it's like Michael Myers is wearing a fucking ghost sheet.
Yeah.
The actress who played Annie, again, she's not good. But you know what? I don't think I would enjoy the film as much without her presence. Speed kills.
It's that.
I love it. But I think that's
the 70s delivery.
But I think that scene in particular is almost the perfect example of what I'm saying, in the sense like the film's got some tension and scare to it, but it's also got a bit of fun. We can laugh at her going speed kills, but then we cut to the shot. But then we cut to the shot of like when he just stops the car, and then I'm looking at it like, oh shit.
You think he's gonna reverse back, and then he just carries on.
And then he stays there for a bit. And then moves off. So I go from that scene, be like, yeah, this is fun, to being like, shit.
Oh, he's going to turn around.
And I feel like very few films can actually hit that balance.
Halloween is a film that's managed to take so much inspiration from so many other films, but also pave the way for so many newer films. And I think it's going back. I don't think I have a set answer, but it's going back to that nostalgic feel and the fact that I think if you made Halloween, imagine Halloween never got made and all the other films didn't get made, and you made that now. The same same filming, the same acting, the same everything. I don't think it would work. No. I don't think people like. I think it's got that. It's that 70s raunchy like.
But even not too much either. It's
it's not over the top.
Again, there's nudity, but it's not. But it's not.
I feel like every slasher has that. I feel like that's such a common trope in slasher films.
But I don't even think like the nudity in Halloween is like, all right, I get it.
It's not overdone.
Like there's like. Again, weirdly enough, I don't think anyone is sexualized in this film.
No,
it's just people having sex.
Yeah,
as opposed like there's no like really glossy like they're not like no one's coming out the shower and it's all in slow motion and it's really nicely lit. Yeah. It's just two people in a bed having a shag. We look at like, well, why didn't Texas Chainsaw Massacre start the big craze? I think the reason for that is like. Halloween's more pleasant.
Yeah.
So even
he's
though
not chopping people's faces off and wearing them.
So even though the film is scary or whatever, there is a warmth Halloween vibe to it.
Yeah.
It does make for like nice. I mean, again, it's a fucking annual watch for me. I would even if we weren't doing this video, I would have been watching this film this year anyway because it's like. Well, it's not Halloween.
It's an easy watch as well. It doesn't take too much brain power to sit through it.
There's loads, and again, I was saying you, it's like, fuck, I love this moment.
Every
I forgot
moment.
how many moments are in this film. Now I'm like,
don't watch a film of Oscar because the entire film is like, oh, wait there, best bit in the film. The
film didn't do anything original.
No,
but it just took all. But what made it original was it took loads of the best bits of other things.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Because the film isn't a rip-off of one thing.
Mm-hmm.
It is its own thing. But when you break down it, but what did the film do? It didn't do anything that we haven't seen before. I was gonna say,
it's nothing that hasn't been done. It's nothing like... It's not like they invented something new.
But it's the first time we saw all of these things together, I think.
Maybe.
Like, it's not the first time we've seen a killer in a film.
No.
It's not the first time we've seen a final girl. It's not even the first time we've seen, like, I don't know, like long tracking shots in the indie film. No, but it's the fact we've got all of that in one.
Yeah.
There's something a bit more, like, I don't know, like exciting about
it.
They
were able to take, like what you were just saying there, we've not seen it all in one, which I've never actually thought about it like that, so that's cool. Certain films have done that where they've took an aspect from another film, and then you watch it, and then you're like, oh, that's psycho.
It just didn't.
Yeah. Like, I've seen that, do you know what I mean? And you're not as impressed by it. It kind of comes across a bit cheap, I think. But I think with Halloween, they do it in a way that you watch it and you go, I've seen it before, but I've not seen it like that.
Even like when Mike, again, another great shot, when Laurie is like just seen all her mates dead and there's that dead space and then you see his face like come out from the shadows. I
hate that scene.
But like shots like that, like were happening in the 20s. Like, I'm sure Nosferatu did that.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me.
And even to this day, again, over 45 years old, we can still watch it and go like,
that's
this just still slaps.
Yeah.
It's still effective.
We were loving every second.
It's still effective. Yeah, it's interesting, like, because I watched this with it was when I was watching it for the Intermission podcast with Robbie. I didn't watch it with Robbie. I watched it with Angus and a few of the Oakroyd lot. And they've never seen it. And I said, I need to watch it because I need to watch it for the intermission. I was like, all right, well, we'll just stick it on here. I went, all right, sound. Nice one. And that's always fun for me, watching a film that I've seen many times that other people haven't seen.
Oh, This you're waiting for their reactions to certain scenes and stuff,
Their perception of Halloween, it's like, they've heard it. It's a classic.
Yeah,
great.
Everyone knows what it is.
And it's a great, and it's a classic horror slasher film. And when they were watching it, it was Kate, she went like, oh, nothing's really happening. And it's like, What's interesting is like people who almost have a perception of like a slasher film need to have a kill every fucking 10 minutes.
Yeah,
you're not getting it with
No, you don't need that.
But in my head, it's like, but I think
becomes
that's what
overkill,
makes this
though.
works in the sense of like, but for the first 2 acts, we're building the threat.
Yeah.
And then by the 3rd act, it's like, now the threat's happening.
Yeah.
I think it works a lot
But they
more.
don't rush it. Is like that's one of the best bits of the film, I think. I hate it with horrors where, I mean, you might disagree, where there's a kill within like the first like 10 seconds.
I think it depends how they're showing it.
True.
I think it depends.
Depending on the piece.
I mean, but even then, the film opens with a kill. And then we break it.
It does, yeah, that is true.
But it is an unconventional one, though, isn't it? It's not a classic, like...
I think...
It's not Michael Myers bursting out of a door and stabbing someone.
I think the reveal of it works brilliant because
it's amazing.
You're behind the mask, it's a POV. You have no clue who it is. She's shouting Michael at the top of her lungs, but we don't know who Michael is. And then the parents show up, and he's got
Michael.
he's just got some little kid just stood there,
It's
and I think that's the shock factor.
holding a
of it.
bloody knife.
Yeah, deadpan stare still hasn't lost it. So I
Crane
think
out.
It's that vulnerability.
Probably half the budget on that shot.
Yeah,
Just-
probably wouldn't surprise me. Do
Is Halloween the greatest slasher?
you want to go first? Can we revamp?
I was
that?
going to let you.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I would go as far to say that Halloween, 1978. Is that correct?
Yeah.
1978. Just fact checking. I would go as far to say that Halloween is the best slasher film. I love Scream. I think I've seen Scream more than I've seen Halloween.
That's fair.
But when I watch Scream, I think of Halloween. But when I watch Halloween, I don't think of
You
Scream.
don't think of anything else?
No.
You don't think...
That's
yeah,
it.
weirdly. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's a very good point, actually.
I've watched a lot of horror films where I thought of Halloween, but I've never watched Halloween and thought of another film.
Like, oh, that's like...
Yeah, barring like you can clearly see inspiration from things like Psycho, but
Again, my
it's
answer...
not a
yeah,
copy.
yeah, exactly. I think it's probably the most important slasher.
Yeah.
I think without this one, we wouldn't... I mean, it's funny because I know in the Psycho video, I went like, I don't think like without Psycho, we wouldn't have the slasher genre. Without Psycho, we wouldn't have the theme of like real life monsters,
Yeah.
of people being the villains. And I don't think without Halloween, we wouldn't have had... Would horror as a genre be as commercial without Halloween? I think
was
that's...
Halloween the first one that started showing a man in a mask running after them.
Again, Texas Chainsaw Massacre came out before then, but again, I think there's a bit of difference with that, though, isn't it?
Would you say that Halloween is the best slasher? I know you said important.
It's not my favorite.
What's your favorite?
Stay tuned.
Oh,
But I think, again, from an objective point of view, I do think it. If we're on about like again slasher, and if we're talking, do you know what? I actually might have to like. What is the actual definition of the word Because this is why I always need to do like... A slasher film is a subgenre of horror films involving a killer or a group of killers stalking and murdering a group of people, usually by use of blade or sharp tools. Although the term slasher may occasionally be used informally as a generic term for any horror film involving murder, film analysis cites an established set of characteristics which slasher films, apart from other horror subgenres such as... Yeah, okay, right. So it is just a killer with a body count. If we're doing
but is that not every horror?
No, but it's different from like a monster. It's different.
That
from
is
it's
true.
different
Yeah,
from
fair play.
things like that. So, in my opinion, it's not my favorite, but I think it probably might be the greatest.
Yeah, I can see that.
For the simple fact of like, again, as we said, I don't think there's any other slasher villain that is as good as Michael Myers.
No. I
don't think there is any. I don't think Laurie Strode is the best final girl of all time.
She's not the best scream queen I've ever seen.
But I also think she's a really effective one.
Yeah.
And she's important. And again, even the cast of characters are not the greatest cast of teens in a horror film. But I also think, do you know what? It's all this. The reason why I think I'll say that Halloween is probably the greatest slasher film of all time is because it is as good as it is without being more. There's no deep underlying storyline element. There's no greater, grander message with this film.
You can watch it and that's what you get.
But the fact I think you could watch Halloween and be like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
On that base level, I don't think any other slasher's done that.
I agree.
I think there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah. I agree.
Again, it's like, well, the acting performances aren't as good as like Jamie Lee Curtis didn't give a good act. If you compare her to like Kate Blanchett in Tar, it's like, well, yeah, fucking of course.
But then you get that. It's the 70s acting, and we love it.
And then if you look at The Godfather came out in 1972, it was like, yeah, but the film wasn't trying to be The Godfather.
Yeah.
The film was trying to be Halloween. that is Halloween. When us two have officially answered the question if it's the greatest slasher of all time. Because we are the ones that you were waiting for to hear that. Hope everyone has a fun and safe Halloween. I think that's also important.
Yeah, look after yourselves. You get some creeps out on the streets.
Yeah,
yeah. Have fun, dress up, eat some candy, have a laugh, and watch Halloween with us.
Go over to the Instagram at Intermission Kills, where we update you on what is getting uploaded and whatnot. And I'm starting to, and I thought of a thing. I've started uploading like for newer releases. I've started just uploading quick little reviews of what I feel instantly. I talked about Terrifier 3. By the time this one comes out, I would have talked about Smile 2. Stay tuned for the rest of the year, because although it's spooky month, it's always going to be spooky season here on Intermission Kills. So
the creeps don't sleep, and neither do we.
And November will continue. It's spooky videos coming out. I don't know what will actually be the first video out, so I won't say it because I don't know. I don't know if I would have finished Silent Hill 2 yet.
Right. Okay.
So that's why. So it's either going to be that or another video. I won't say it. That's why you have to go over to the Instagram to stay tuned. It's not just a one-off season. What was it? It's not just for Halloween. It's for life. It's like a dog's not just for Christmas. It's for life.
Do you want to do that together? Are you ready?
Do you need me to direct you?
Yeah.
Do you need me to...
Intermission Kills is not just for Halloween. Oh, well, I don't know why I was doing a funny voice. Intermission Kills is not just for Halloween. It's for life. So stay tuned.
Stay spooky.
I hated that. See you later.